My dear friends, tell me honestly, how many of you get angry at least once a day? Or let me put it this way, how many of you get angry at least once an hour? Pause a smile, let audience laugh. We all do, isn't it? Someone cuts you off in traffic, someone ignores your message, someone makes a hurtful comment, and suddenly, it feels like they've hijacked your peace of mind. But let me ask you a deeper question. Why should they control how you feel? Why should their behavior decide whether you're peaceful or miserable? Today, let's discuss a simple art, how to never get angry or bothered by anyone, no matter what they do. Friends, let me ask you something very simple. How many of you have ever gone to a mango tree and expected apples from it? Pause, smile, wait for laughter. Sounds ridiculous, right? But this is exactly what we do with people every single day. We expect kindness from someone who has never practiced kindness. We expect patience from someone who has lived a life of irritation. We expect honesty from someone who has made a career out of lies. And when they fail to meet our expectation, we get angry, we get upset, and we allow our peace to be stolen. But the question is, whose fault is it? The tree or our expectation from the tree? Imagine this. If you go to a bakery, you will get bread. If you go to a library, you will get books. If you go to a temple, you will get prayers. If you go to a gossip monger, you will get gossip. Pause a laughter. Why are we surprised when people act exactly according to their nature? That's what they know. That's who they are. If you understand this one truth, you will save yourself from unnecessary anger. Let me share a small story. One man once got very angry at a monk because the monk would never react to insults. Finally, the man shouted, "Don't you hear me? I am abusing you so badly, and you're just sitting there calm. Aren't you bothered at all?" The monk smiled and replied, "If someone brings you a gift and you don't accept it, whom does the gift belong to?" The man said, "Of course it belongs to the giver." The monk said, "Exactly. Your anger, your insults are your gifts. If I don't accept them, they remain with you. Isn't that powerful?" So, the first step to never being angry or bothered is this: stop expecting mangoes from an apple tree. Accept people for who they are, not who you imagine them to be. When you adjust your expectations to reality, anger disappears like mist in the morning sun. You see, people act out of their conditioning. They are not waking up in the morning thinking, "Whose peace can I destroy today?" They are just being themselves. If we can understand this, we won't take their behavior personally. We will simply say, this is their nature, and move on peacefully. Friends, anger is nothing but an instant reaction. Somebody says something, does something, and before we even think, boom, we explode. But the wise path is to replace reaction with response. What's the difference? Reaction is automatic, response is conscious. Reaction comes from emotion. Response comes from wisdom. Let me give you a small example. Imagine you are sitting in a doctor's clinic. The doctor gives you some medicine. The next day, you come back with rashes and fever. You tell the doctor, "I reacted badly to that medicine." Reaction means something is wrong. Now imagine the same scenario, but instead of rashes, the medicine starts healing you. Then the doctor says, "Your body is responding well to the treatment." Response means something is right. Similarly, in life, when people say or do things, we have two choices. Either we react and create more damage, or we respond and create more healing. Now let's make this very practical. Someone insults you. If you react instantly, you shout back, you hurt them, you lose your peace. and in the process, maybe even lose your relationship. But if you respond, you pause, you think, you decide, is this person worth my anger? Or can I deal with this in a calmer, smarter way? The outcome will be completely different. I once heard about a man driving his car when another driver cut in front of him aggressively. Immediately, his blood boiled, his hand was on the horn, his mouth was ready with abuses. But suddenly he thought, wait, what if this man is rushing to a hospital with his wife who's in labor? What if he's not reckless, but helpless? That single thought transformed his anger into compassion. He didn't know the reality, but by choosing to respond with possibility rather than react with assumption, he saved his peace. And isn't that what life is all about? Nobody else is responsible for our reactions. They press the button, but the wiring inside is ours. The more control we give to others, the more miserable we become. But the more we learn to respond consciously, the more peaceful we stay. So next time, when someone provokes you, just remind yourself, do I want to be a slave to my reactions or the master of my responses? Because my friends, anger may feel powerful in the moment, but response is the real power. Friends, one of the most underrated powers in this entire world is the power of pause. Just a few seconds of silence can save you from years of regret. You see, most of us live like pressure cookers. We keep storing stress, anger, disappointments, and then the smallest spark makes us burst. Somebody says one wrong word, one careless comment, and before we know it, our tongue has already fired bullets. Later, we realize what we said and we regret. How many of you have experienced this? Pause, smile, look at audience. We all have, isn't it? Now think about this. When you send a wrong message on WhatsApp, there's a little option called delete for everyone. But when you send a wrong message through your tongue, there is no delete button. Words once spoken cannot be taken back. You may apologize later, but the scar remains. That is why the power of pause is so important. There's a beautiful story. A young boy had a terrible anger problem. His father gave him a bag full of nails and told him, every time you lose your temper, hammer one nail into this wooden fence. The first day, the boy hammered 37 nails. Slowly, as weeks went by, the number reduced. Finally, he learned to control his temper and stopped hammering nails. The father then said, no, every time you control your anger, remove one nail. Eventually, the boy proudly said, Father, I've removed them all. The father took him to the fence and said, look closely. The nails are gone, but the holes remain. That's what your angry words do to people. Even when you remove them with apologies, the wounds stay. Isn't that so true? So how do we avoid leaving those holes? By pausing. Just a few seconds of silence between provocation and response. Imagine a glass of muddy water. If you keep shaking it, it remains cloudy. But if you let it sit quietly, the mud settles and the water becomes clear. Our mind is the same. When anger shakes it, our thoughts are cloudy. But if we pause, everything becomes clear. Practical tip: the next time you feel anger rising, don't speak. Take a deep breath. If possible, drink some water. If you can, even excuse yourself and walk away. Give yourself those precious seconds to pause, because in that pause, wisdom enters. In that pause, you realize, if I say this, what will be the consequence? If I stay silent, what will be the consequence? That small gap between impulse and action is the birthplace of maturity. Friends, never underestimate the power of pause. It can protect your peace. It can protect your relationships. It can protect your future. 1 second of silence can save you from a lifetime of sorry. Friends, anger melts. when empathy enters. Very often, we get so caught up in how someone's words or actions made us feel that we forget to ask, why did they behave that way in the first place? Every rude word, every angry outburst, every cold silence has a story behind it. Nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, let me go and ruin someone's day. People behave badly because of something going on within them. If we could just pause and look deeper, we would see pain hiding behind their anger, struggle hiding behind their words, and wounds hiding behind their attitude. Imagine this: you walk into a hospital, and in the emergency ward, a patient is screaming and crying in pain. Would you get angry at him? No. You would feel compassion because you know his behavior comes from suffering. Similarly, many people around us are also carrying invisible pain. They may look normal on the outside, but inside, they are bleeding emotionally. Their rudeness is just a symptom of their suffering. When we see people that way, anger is replaced with empathy. Let me tell you a story. There was a man traveling in a crowded train. He had 2 children who were running up and down the compartment shouting, disturbing everyone. The man just sat silently, doing nothing. Finally, one passenger got very irritated and said angrily, "Mister, can't you control your children? Don't you see they're bothering everyone?" The man lifted his head slowly and said, "I'm sorry, I should. But we just came from the hospital. Their mother died this morning. I don't know what to say to them, and they don't know how to handle it." Suddenly, the atmosphere in the train changed. The anger in that passenger turned into tears. Why? Because the moment he understood the man's pain, empathy replaced irritation. This is the secret, friends. When someone hurts you, instead of asking, "Why are they doing this to me?" ask, "What must they be going through to act this way?" That single shift in perspective changes your anger into understanding. In fact, science also shows this. People who are constantly rude or aggressive often carry childhood trauma, financial stress, health problems, or relationship struggles. They are like pressure cookers waiting to burst. Their outburst is not about you, it's about what they are carrying inside. So, how do we practice empathy practically? Whenever someone mistreats you, remind yourself, this is not who they are. This is what they are going through. Instead of throwing fire back at their fire, you pour a little water of compassion. Sometimes just listening silently or responding with kindness can disarm even the angriest person. Remember, my friends, angry people don't need more anger. They need more understanding. Hurt people don't need punishment. They need healing. And you never know, maybe your empathy could be the medicine they were secretly longing for. So the next time someone bothers you, instead of reacting with rage, try responding with empathy. Because anger divides hearts, but empathy connects them. And in the end, we don't win by proving people wrong. We win by healing what's hurting inside them. Friends, let me ask you something straight from the heart. How many battles have you fought in your life just to prove you were right? Pause a smile, raise hand a little, let audience react. And how many times after winning that argument did you feel truly happy? If we are honest, the truth is this: sometimes we win the fight, but we lose our peace. Sometimes we win the argument, but we lose the relationship. And sometimes we win with our ego, but deep inside, we lose with our soul. This is the tension between ego and peace. Ego says, "Don't let them talk to you like that. Show them who you are." Peace says, "You don't have to attend every battle you are invited to." Ego shouts, "Fight back." Peace whispers, "Let it go." The problem is, Ego is loud and peace is gentle. That's why most of us get dragged into conflicts we never needed to be in. Let me give you a small analogy. Imagine you're walking down the road and a dog barks at you. Do you stop, bark back, and argue with the dog? The pause, smile, let audience laugh? No. You keep walking because you know it's a waste of time. In the same way, when people bark with negativity, sometimes the wisest thing you can do is keep walking. But our ego says, how dare he talk like this? I will give him a reply he'll never forget. And in that moment, we become prisoners of our ego. There's a famous story about two monks walking through a village. One of them got insulted badly by a man on the street. He was furious, but he kept quiet until they reached the next town. Finally, he exploded to the other monk. How could that man insult me like that? I can't get it out of my head. The older monk replied calmly, "Oh brother, I left that man back in the village. Why are you still carrying him in your mind?" Isn't that powerful? Ego makes us carry people and their words long after they are gone. Peace comes when we learn to drop them. Now let me make this very practical. The next time someone provokes you, ask yourself a simple question. Do I want to win this argument, or do I want to keep my peace? You can't always have both. Winning the argument may give your ego a small victory, but keeping peace gives your heart a long, lasting happiness. Even in relationships, how many marriages, friendships, families have broken not because of big issues, but because of small ego battles? Why should I say sorry first? Why should I forgive when they were wrong? And in the process, both people keep their ego, but lose their bond. Friends, always remember this. You can either be right or you can be happy. Choose wisely. In fact, humility is the most powerful response to anger. Silence sometimes wins more than 1,000 words. Walking away sometimes proves more strength than standing and fighting. You don't have to fight every time. You don't have to prove yourself every time, because your peace is more precious than your ego. So the next time your ego says, fight, ask your heart, is it worth my peace? And most often you'll realize it's not. True strength is not in having the last word. True strength is in knowing when to keep quiet. True victory is not in defeating others. True victory is in not letting your ego defeat your peace. Friends, all of life's battles are first fought in the mind. If we cannot master our mind, we will forever be slaves to anger, irritation, and negativity. Think about it. The world outside is full of triggers people, words, situations, disappointments. But the real battlefield is not outside. The real battlefield is inside. If your mind is strong, nothing outside can shake you. But if your mind is weak, even the smallest comment can break your peace. Let me ask you, how many of you have seen a glass of water on a shaky table? A pause, smiled, even a small vibration,